19, text 16.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottama Deving Saraswating Vyasam Tato Jayamudiyajit Punascha Bhuhat Bhagavatyanante Rati Prasangascha Tadasrayeshu Mahatsu Yam Yam Upayami Shrishting Maitrastu Sarvatra Namo Dvijebhya. Puna, again. Cha, and. Bhuyat, let it be. Bhagavati, unto Lord Shri Krishna. Anante, who has unlimited potency. Rati, attracting. Prasanga, association. Cha, also. Tat, his. Asrayeshu, with those who are his devotees. Mahatsu, within the material creation. Yam yam, wherever. Upayami, I may take. Shrishtim, my birth. Maitri, friendly. Relation. Astu, let it be. Sarvatra, everywhere. Namaha, my obeisances. Dvijebhya, unto the Brahmanas. Translation by His Divine Grace to the A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Again, offering obeisances unto all you Brahmanas. I pray that if I should again take my birth in the material world, I will have complete attachment to the unlimited Lord Krishna, association with His devotees, and friendly relations with all living beings. Translation with repetition. Again, offering obeisances unto all you Brahmanas. I pray that if I should again take my birth in the material world, I will have complete attachment to the unlimited Lord Krishna, association with His devotees, and friendly relations with all living beings. Purport: that a devotee of the Lord is the only perfect living being is explained herein by Maharaja Parikshit. A devotee of the Lord is no one's enemy, although there may be many enemies of a devotee. A devotee of the Lord does not like to associate with non-devotees, although he has no enmity with them. He desires association with the devotees of the Lord. This is perfectly natural because birds of the same feather mix together. And the most important function of a devotee is to have complete attachment for Lord Shri Krishna, the Father of all living beings. As a good son of the Father behaves in a friendly way with all his other brothers, so also the devotee of the Lord, being a good son of the Supreme Father, Lord Krishna, sees all other living beings in relation with the Supreme Father. He tries to bring back the upstart sons of the Father to a saner stage and to get them to accept the Supreme Fatherhood of God. Maharaj Parikshit was certainly going back to Godhead. But even if he were not to go back, he prayed for a pattern of life which is the most perfect way in the material world. A pure devotee does not desire the company of a personality as great as Brahma, but he prefers the association of a petty living being, provided he is a devotee of the Lord. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta Swami purport and translation to Canto 1, Chapter 19, Text 16. Translation. Again offering obeisances unto all you Brahmanas. I pray that if I should again take my birth in the material world, I will have complete attachment to the unlimited Lord Krishna, association with His devotees, and friendly relations with all living beings. From this verse and the previous verses, we can clearly understand how Parikshit Maharaj is a pure devotee of the Lord. Although he's preparing himself for leaving the planet, for being Krishna conscious, going back to Godhead, at the same time, he's praying that if it's the desire of Krishna that he be born in the material world, that he may be a devotee of Krishna, that he may remain attached to Krishna, that he may have the association of his devotees. All these are symptoms of a devotee. Even though he's been cursed unreasonably, he played a bad joke on a sage, Samika Muni, and his son took it as a great offense and cursed him to die. Hardly a suitable punishment for someone who has simply done some harmless yet almost funny type of action because he felt offended by the sage's negligence or ignoring him. The sage, he didn't take it very seriously at all, but his son, Sangi, I believe, he took it very seriously and he cursed Parikshit Maharaj. So Parikshit Maharaj, he could become envious against that son. Why is Krishna causing this to me? Why is this? So many emotions could be there, which normally people demonstrate when they feel that they've been unjustly punished. But instead, what does he pray? He prays that somehow I was attached to family life. I probably would not have easily got out of it. But now the Lord, in order to save me, has appeared before me in such a way that only out of fear I will detach myself from the world. So I said, please take me as a completely surrendered soul, and may Mother Ganges also accept me in that way. I simply want to remain as a devotee of the Lord under any circumstance. Even if I am born again in the material world, allow me to be a devotee. All these are very transcendental qualities. There's not any symptom of bitterness or envy or hate within his character. He's rather showing all the good qualities of a great Vaishnava. Certainly Krishna is not going to abandon him and let him leave his body without preparing him to go back home, back to Godhead. And of course, Sukadeva Goswami appears just at the right time. At this point, when all the Brahmanas are there, nobody can come up with a consensus. What's the best thing for him to do? It would be, he could even say, why has the Lord forsaken me? He could have become hopeless. But instead he just was determined, I'll sit here fasting unto death. Just tell me and then at that time, Sukadeva Goswami appears. and gives him the spiritual message of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which we are able to now benefit from. The Bhaktivinoda Thakur, our previous spiritual master, when he prayed, Manaso deho geho jo kichu mor, arpilo tu apode nanda kishore. One of the verses in that song, he states that Bahir Mukha Brahma Janme Nahi As. I don't have any desire to be born even as a Lord Brahma. See, if you want me to be born in the material world, well, the biggest birth in the material world is to be a Brahma, but I don't want to be born as a Brahma or with a Brahma who is a Bahirmukh, who is materialistic or who's not a devotee. He says, Kita Janma Hoy. Even if I could take birth as an insect, as a worm, who is your devotee? This I will prefer. This is what I request. Let me be born even as a worm. Who is your devotee? Prabhupada explained this purport one time that basically, if you born a worm in the stomach of a devotee, you see, basically this is what he's requesting, then at least that way you can get a little Mahaprasad. The devotees will be taking prasadam. Whereas a Bahirmukh Brahma, you won't even get Mahaprasad. So, actually, the devotee of the Lord is only perfect living being. Because all the good qualities of Krishna are also present in a devotee. You take the life of Haridas Thakur. He's spreading the holy name, chanting. Everywhere he's arrested by some Nawab. And they ask him why you are chanting the names of Krishna, being born in a Mohammedan family. So he explained that because so many people are being converted from Mohammedan to Hindu and other religion. So since there's only one God, and I have faith in this name of Krishna, I get some special energy from chanting the name of Krishna. What is the harm? I don't know. So many other people are chanting so many names. If I like this name and chant it, what is the problem? But then his mullah, his ayatollah, started to chastise and say, no, if he is allowed to do this, and so many may follow, this will be very bad for our sectarian religious interest. This person is a harami. He's a great offender. So you must put him in jail. So they imprisoned Haridas Thakur. So in the prison, he's chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And the other prisoners are starting to get angry at him. Why are you so happy here? You're in prison. It's not a place to be happy, singing and everything. You're supposed to be suffering. This is a prison. We're not free. We can't go out. Then he said, what? You feel that you are in prison. You're very fortunate. Because you feel that you are a prisoner. The people outside, they're in illusion. They think they're free. They're not free. They're bound by their material senses, by their material desires. They are forced to act according to the dictations of the modes of nature. Just as Prabhupada explained, someone thinks he's free to smoke or free to drink alcohol. Actually, he exercises freedom to become a slave to those habits. And once he's surrendered to those habits, he cannot stop easily. So he's surrendered his freedom to serve those particular habits. So where is the question of freedom? He's given up his freedom. Right? The devotee does not remain subservient to any non-essential habit. You cannot live without eating. Otherwise, so we cannot avoid eating. But we only eat Krishna prasadam. We eat the food offered to Krishna. We don't eat other things. So we don't remain a slave to any unnecessary habit. We need to sleep, so we sleep to rest, so we can do more service for Krishna. But these other unnecessary habits, these are avoided because they make us artificially subservient to the senses instead of being a servant to Krishna. So, Haridas Thakur was preaching to the people in the prison that you're very fortunate because here you can realize that in the material world we are all prisoners. This is Durga. Durga, Dur means difficult and Ga means prison. This is a difficult prison to get out of. So now, knowing that you're actually a prisoner, better to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In this way you can actually achieve your real liberation from material bondage. And this way you can actually achieve the highest perfection of life. So he can this way induce all the prisoners to chant Hare Krishna. And the whole prison house was chanting. Actually, in 1977, when Mayapur was attacked, when the communist government took over in West Bengal, in the beginning, now they're more favorable, but at that time, they misunderstood that possibly we're connected with America or something, and they seemed to induce some of the persons from the Muslim religion to become incited against us. They promised that if you drive them out of their temple, then we'll give it to you as a big animal hospital and a Mohammedan school. So in this way they attacked the temple, trying to drive us out. It said when the villagers came to attack the temple, behind them, the ladies and the children from the village were following with baskets and burlap bags in order to loot the temple. They thought it was going to be a loot. So they, after the men with the sticks and the swords and all, they are following after with bags. Eyewitnesses. It was recorded in the court records. So it wasn't an innocent thing. It was a pre-planned thing to drive out the devotees and completely loot the whole place. Every tape recorder, watch, this, that, whatever you could get your hands on. They're going with their big baskets on their head, going to come back loaded. Like a supermarket or something. So, of course, they expected that when they didn't expect the devotees to respond the way they did. The devotees are not of Krishna from all over the world. They're not in the mood of just allowing people to drive them out of the temples or harm the deities. So, under that circumstance, when they were they had got to headmaster, the Gurukul, and were beating him, probably would have died. So then order was given to fire on the attackers with the shotguns. Otherwise, the devotees never personally want to cause any harm to anybody, but in self-defense, one has to do the needful. So it's just birdshot. Nobody got killed or anything, but they got a lot of pellets in their backside. And they ran off. So there was a big thing in the papers and all that. So somehow or another, the devotees were all arrested. And there was, about 17 devotees, 11 or 17, I forget, in the jail, including Bhavananda Prabhu and Subhag and so many different, Subhag Swami, and so many different devotees were in there. And I was with Prabhupada in Vrindavan, and then he immediately sent me back. And we couldn't, there was like a whole setup. So we couldn't immediately get them out of jail. We were going mad, going here and there. We got that we could bring prasadam to them. So he'd every day cook a big feast and give, and then they would give inside to the jailers and the other prisoners. They were very popular. So there's a big, every day, this prasad distribution. It came out in the paper. They were having a big kirtan every day. And it came in the paper that Krishnagar jail, Hare Krishna kirtan, daily going on. And it was so, they were in there doing kirtan, taking prasad. We were outside trying to get them out, going mad, thinking how to get them out. But there's a certain cell in there where they have known as the Naxalites. They're like the radical Marxist Lenin type of revolutionaries that believe the only way to peace is to overthrow a government by terrorism and so on. So they had them under high security, chained to the wall, this ancient system. And they wouldn't let them out at the same time as other prisoners. They hardly ever let them out at all because they're afraid they would escape. Maybe only if they got sick, they let them out for an hour a day. So, but when the devotees, they would be chanting all day, Lal Salam, Jindabad, red salute, victory will come, and they're just, all day slogans. But when the devotees walk by their prison chamber, then they see the devotee, they go, red salute, Hare Krishna, Jindabad. So everyone there was chanting, somehow being empowered by Haridas Thakur. So like that, Haridas Thakur, where he was the first pioneer in prison preaching. Actually now in some places, the devotees, they become chaplains for prisons. There are many good people, not, people that due to some bad karma previous life, they get implicated in some kind of crime. But they're not such hardcore bad people. In fact, quite a few, I know one or two even senior devotees, they, sitting in the prison getting Prabhupada's books they read about, they totally changed their life and became devotees and very good people. Maybe they got arrested for possession of drugs or some thing where they're not like necessarily violent people in there, everyone. And as a result, they become devotees. So now in many places around the world, they actually have chaplains in the prisons who are devotees. They go and give books, they put books in the library, they give counseling. And this way, sometimes you can get some young people or different people that got stuck there and really not good people, good souls. They change their ways and they come out and become devoted. So, because they have nothing else to do there, so it's good for them to chant Hare Krishna. They can play ping pong and things, but it's better to chant Hare Krishna and read the Bhagavad Gita. So, we're present. We actually I was visiting in New Orleans, and they have a devotee who's registered like that with the prison, and he goes around and gives counseling for people. Well, at this time, Haridas Thakur, he wasn't there as a counselor, he was one of the prisoners. But by his preaching, he got everyone to chant Hare Krishna. So then the news came back to this Nawab that everybody's chanting Hare Krishna in your prison house. So then the mullah, he said, well, that's not so bad. But the mullah, the Ayatollah, the priest of the king, the Mohammedan priest, he started to say, no, he's going to spoil everything. We got to take care of this person. So they brought Haridas Thakur before the Nawab. And he said that, listen, unless you give up this chanting, we're not going to spare your life. You have to stop chanting Hare Krishna and simply chant the names of Allah or other names of God. We won't allow you to chant the name of Hare Krishna. And Haridas Thakur said that if you take my body and you cut it into little pieces, so long as there is one piece left, it is going to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So then the Nawab said, punish him. Punish him, punish him. So then the king said, all right, you are to be beaten in 22 marketplaces, Bais Bazaar, or a cat of nine tails. Normally after 2 or 3 whippings like that, back will be laced, they'll die immediately. The 22 marketplaces, there'd be nothing left, it would be shreds. So then they took Haridas Thakur and they tied him up. The people, they couldn't believe it, that how is it that they're punishing this innocent devotee for what? For chanting the name of God. So the public, they became very angry against the government for this action, but they were helpless to do anything. So they started to whip Haridas Thakur. So he was praying, he was feeling great pain, and he was praying to Krishna, please forgive them for their activities. Actually, I deserve this because I've committed so many offenses in my life. I've committed so many sinful reactions, so many sinful activities. I deserve this. This is simply your mercy, so please forgive them. So then, even though he's being whipped, he's praying for them. Such an exalted devotee, such a perfect person. They go like this, beating him in every marketplace. After that, somehow, miraculously, Haridas Thakur stops feeling any pain. And they whipping and whipping. They take him through all the 22 marketplaces. Whipping like anything. Finally, they finish. He's still alive, unhurt. They couldn't believe it. The two guards are just sitting there, holding their hand in their head, He said, what's the matter? He said, the matter? You're alive, that's the problem. What's wrong with that? He said, because you're alive, we're going to be killed. After beating you in 22 marketplaces, you're supposed to be dead. Because we couldn't kill you, the king is going to torture us. Now we're going to be finished. So then Haridas Thakur said, I don't want to cause you any inconvenience. If I would die, would that be better for you? Oh, that would be very good for us if you would die. So then is it all right if I die? Yes, please die. So then Haridas Thakur laid down. Actually, he went into deep samadhi. So they stopped his breathing, stopped his pulse, everything, and just went into trance. And they thought, he's dead! He's dead! They're just overjoyed. He's dead. They run over to the king, to the Nawab, and tell him, yes, we have done our job. He's dead. Well, I want to see personally. So the Nawab went down there, and he felt no pulse. The priest felt like, he's dead. So then the king said, all right, now bury him. The mullah, he said, no, he should not be buried. Burying is for pious Muslims. This person is an offender. He's a heathen. He's a harami. So then we should burn him. The Nawab said, no. He should not be burnt. He should not be buried. He should be cast in the river. Let the birds and the dogs eat his flesh. Let his soul wander the world, suffering for his great offense, giving up his religion. It's really heavy duty. So then Nawab, he said, all right, throw him in the river. So then the two guys came to pick him up. They tried to move. They couldn't move him. No matter how hard they tried to pull, he wouldn't move. He wouldn't budge. So then he said, well, bring some stronger guys. So he brought some of the big wrestlers, big bodybuilders. They came. Haridas Thakur didn't move an inch. So it was getting really, what's wrong? Actually, because he was meditating on Krishna, he had assumed the mass, the weight of Krishna. Krishna being present in his heart, Krishna can be as heavy as the universe or as light as a feather. So Krishna, in his own sweet will, he manifested himself just as heavy as the universe. So no matter what they did, they couldn't even move him, not even a millimeter. Finally, they brought in elephants. Elephants are ropes snapping. So all of a sudden, Krishna said he made himself very light. All of a sudden, they could just lift him up. They just lift him up and whoop, threw him in the river. He's floating in the water. The wind was even blowing him to the other side. As he got in the Ganges water, that kind of waked him out of his samadhi. So then he started to swim. Swam over to the other side, jumping on the bank. He said, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The Nawab, he couldn't believe it. get me the boat. He told to his priest, he said, what you have done? This is some great fakir, this is some great mendicant. He's not an ordinary person. He's a peer. And he immediately got in the boat. He said, take me to the other side. And he went in running after Haridas Thakur, fell down at the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur, and said, please forgive me for my offenses. I could not recognize, you are some great saint. You have got so much power. Haridas Thakur, meanwhile, behind the king, the Nawab was running. He said, with his beard and everything, please forgive us. He was also pleading for forgiveness. So the Haridas Thakur said, the only way I'll forgive you is if you give the order that no one will impede anyone from chanting the Harinam Sankirtan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That there'll be no more religious persecution in your kingdom. He said, yes, I give my order. No one will impede the Harinam Sankirtan anymore. So then he forgave them. Like this, Haridas Thakur, of course, not only was he supremely powerful, but he had all the good qualities of Krishna, of a great devotee. Even though he was being whipped, even though, of course, later, when this happened, even some of these things happened during Lord Chaitanya's childhood or even before his appearance. Haridas Thakur was older than Lord Chaitanya. So when Lord Chaitanya started manifesting his Sankirtan movement, when in the house of Srivas, they had the kirtans. The one kirtan, Lord Chaitanya, he started to reveal himself to the devotees and had the big 21-hour kirtan performed by Advaita Acharya. At that time, he would reveal to each devotee what was their eternal relationship with him. He revealed to Marai Gupta, because Marai Gupta was the devotee who day and night tried to worship Krishna, but he couldn't. He kept thinking of Ram. And he revealed to him, do you know who you are? And suddenly Marai Gupta looked at himself and he was Hanuman. He looked up and no more was Lord Chaitanya standing there. Instead, there was Ramchandra. Ramchandra was, Lord Chaitanya had become Ramchandra and Marai Gupta had become Hanuman. And Marai Gupta, he fainted. It was just too much for him. Then when he became conscious, again Lord Chaitanya was there, Nityananda was standing next to the whole kirtan was continuing. Like this, there were so many pastimes during that 21-hour festival. So, at that time, he called Haridas Thakur, Lord Chaitanya called Haridas Thakur. And he said, you remember that time when you were being beaten in the 22 marketplaces? You see, I could not tolerate that how my devotee was being beaten. I was coming down with my Sudarshan Chakra from the spiritual world. But just as I was about to cut off the heads of those two torturers, you pleaded for their deliverance. So then how could I kill them? But how could I tolerate, Lakshmi, other than no one could tolerate that you would be beaten. So I've taken the beating on my own back. And Lord Chaitanya turned around and at his back it was scarred from the whips of the torturers. And Haridas Thakur saw that, he fainted. That Krishna had taken that pain for his devotee. Like this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reciprocates with his devotee. There's like a competition. The devotee doesn't ask anything from Krishna, rather simply the opportunity to serve Krishna. But then Krishna, he's being served by the devotee. He wants to reciprocate and he wants to serve the devotee. In this way there's a type of competition. The devotee trying to serve Krishna and Krishna trying to serve the devotee. Actually, after Prabhupada requested me to excavate the holy places of Bengal, wherever Lord Chaitanya's pastimes are. Actually, with Prabhupada Vishnumar's list last year, we were able to complete a new temple at the ashram of Vasudev Datta, Nitai Gaur deity. And like this, different places, sometimes we go and we try to locate lost holy places and then construct some repairs and different whatever's needed at that particular place. So I was requested by some senior Vaishnavas to see what could be done at the birthplace of Krishnadas Kaviraj. Since Krishnadas Kaviraj was the writer of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is the most important literature for the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, the most authentic, authoritative. So I went out in our Mayapur jeep many years ago to find the birthplace of Krishnadas Kaviraj, which was very much off the beaten track. So I got up to the place of Lord Chaitanya's taking sannyas in Katwa, and there I asked the head pujari, who was known to me, one Nandalal Goswami, coming in the line of the Gadadhar Das Sampradaya. So I requested him if he could kindly give an assistant or someone to guide me, because after there the road ended. It was after there, it's just the dirt roads and going through the villages and forest and things to find the actual place and any other important places nearby there. So at that time it was about 12 noon. So he said, all right, I'll give you someone, but you should stay and take prasadam. I said, listen, we have to go and find, and I have to get back to Mayapur. So many, it's not, I have to do Krishna's work. Krishna's work comes before personal consideration. And then he said, you are doing Krishna's work, but as the pujari, I am representing Krishna. And so Krishna, he wants to serve his devotee. So I'm saying that unless you accept Krishna's prasad, I'm not giving you anyone to guide you. You say it like that. So they get some nice spinaches and different things, sabji. So anyway, we took some Krishna prasad, and then he had us over a barrel. But this is, it's commonly known that this is like Krishna's competition. The devotee is trying to serve Krishna. He's thinking how to deliver these fallen souls, how to get them engaged in Krishna's service, how to get them into Sankirtan, how to give them one of the transcendental literatures of Srila Prabhupada so that they can be delivered. And Krishna, he also helps the devotee, bringing in different souls who are ready to become Krishna conscious. Even sometimes some demons create some obstacles. Somehow Krishna also helps the devotees in different ways. We don't see how Krishna is helping, but he is there. He's appreciating the mood of the devotee. One of the names of Krishna is Bhavagrihi Janardhana, the Lord who accepts the mood of devotion of the devotee. So Krishna, he appreciates when the devotee takes on that attitude of service, a desire to serve. Especially Krishna appreciates when someone wants to serve the devotee of Krishna. By serving Srila Prabhupada, by being the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, that is more pleasing to Krishna. Then he's more grateful that, they're serving my devotee who is so dear to me. And this way Prabhupada said we should be fixed even to be the servant of the servant 100 times removed. Gopi Bharta Padakamala Yora Dasa Dasa Anudasa. So, in this way Parikshit Maharaj, he's takes everything that's happened as Krishna's mercy, and now he's determined, simply wants to be fixed in devotional service to Krishna. And so Krishna is reciprocating with him, giving him Sukadeva Goswami as his instructor, and revealing to him the secret of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So now we are all grateful to Parikshit Maharaj for his devotional attitude by which this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam was revealed, so that we can also get the mercy of knowing about the science of Krishna, so we can also follow in their footsteps. We can pray to Parikshit Maharaj that he may also bless us, Sukadeva Goswami may bless us, that if we are to take birth in the material world, we may do so in association with devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that we can remain, that we can have attachment for Lord Chaitanya, Lord Shishi, Radha Krishna. If we are again to be born in the material world, that's all that we request. If they want us to serve anywhere, the devotee is ready to go. But the desire is always to be a devotee. That is the basic aspiration that a devotee has. Therefore, even Lord Chaitanya, just as he prayed that doesn't want wealth, na dhanam na janam na sundarim, doesn't want followers, doesn't want to enjoy beautiful women. He simply wants to serve Krishna. Janmane janmanishware, bhavatad bhakti haituki tvayi. Even birth after birth, let me simply serve you in pure devotional service. So that mood that Lord Chaitanya has put in his Shikshastika is being here exemplified by Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki, Goprimanandi. Time for questions or questions? After Krishna.
After Krishna, just once.
Krishna appears once. Lord Chaitanya appears only after Krishna appears.
I just thinking there's so many Kali, so many why doesn't he appear more?
Once in every universe, there's millions of universe, unlimited, ananta koti bhavana, unlimited millions of universes. He's present right now in some universe. He's going, each time he's present in the one universe.
But in this universe, so many Kali.
When he comes, everyone gets delivered. What do you consider a millennium? My understanding is he only comes after Krishna appears. Krishna comes once in the day of Brahma. 4,300,000 years. 1,000 Chatra Yuga cycles is the day of Brahma. Once in that, Krishna comes. After Krishna comes, Lord Chaitanya comes. That's my understanding. You are 501 years after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. This opportunity is going to come to you again after 4,290,000 299,500 years. 499 years from now, you'll get this opportunity again. Say roughly 4,300,000 years from now, give or take 500, you'll get the opportunity. Times 1,000. 4 billion. 4,300,000,000 years. So that's why it's very important also that we know Krishna promises in the Gita that if you don't make it back to Godhead, then the devotee gets a birth in the heavenly planets where they can live for thousands of years and enjoy all type of sense gratification. So that's why the devotees are very careful to pray that I want to only be born as a devotee. Because otherwise, if you get born not as a devotee and you go up to the heavenly planets, unless there's some preaching there. One time Bhakti Siddhanta was telling his followers, he's on a walk, he suddenly looked up to the moon and said, we must now is the time to go preaching in the moon. The people there, they're becoming too materialistic. They're becoming bahirmukh. And now there's a need for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement to go there. So, of course, the great acharyas, they're planning different programs in other planets as well. But the devotee is very concerned to simply be a devotee. Because if you take birth in the heavenly planets, even as some kind of minor demigod or something, and you enjoy, then after that, by the time your life is over, the movement of Lord Chaitanya will have transferred to another universe. On the heavenly planets, Kali Yugas go fast. Here they go slow. So the point is not to miss this opportunity. Now is the opportunity where you can get, it's like clearance house, everything must go. Discount price. Now with a very little effort, you can go back to home, back to Godhead. You can get pure love for Krishna by following Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. Maya is trying to trick us and trying to distract us in various ways. We have to be very careful, knowing how powerful Maya is. We should be afraid of Maya. That Maya is so powerful that she can bewilder anyone if we are a little careless. So we have to be very, very, Prabhupada said we should just cling to the lotus feet of Nitai Gaur. We should just be holding on for dear life to their lotus feet. That they've come now, this is the greatest opportunity for us. In every Kali Yuga, in every Yuga, there's some avatar who gives liberation, who gives different paths of religion. But to actually get love for Krishna, there's no greater opportunity than now when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement is here present in this world. This is the greatest opportunity, and to miss this opportunity, what greater misfortune could there be than that? Yes?
It seems predicted that there'll be a 10,000 year golden age period within this Kali Yuga of technology. How do I understand that? Will it be that in every technology devotion incline?
Devotional activities, the devotional movement, and the Sankirtan movement will predominate. In the material world, you can never expect that 100% everyone is going to be a complete pure devotee. But at different times, certain situations may predominate. Even in Dwarka, there was different things going on. But at that time, everyone was devoted to Krishna. So even in the Kali Yuga, there can be a time when the vast majority of people, they all become practitioners of the Sankirtan movement. When the Sankirtan movement can be the predominant spiritual culture in the world at that time. At which time that makes everyone peaceful, makes natural things very harmonious, creates a whole new environment in the world. In any case, with Lord Chaitanya's movement as present, that gives the opportunity for people in the Kali Yuga to take shelter of Lord Chaitanya's movement and go back to their original position. Yes? Well, Chand Kazi had ordered his descendants not to impede Lord Chaitanya's movement. So his son, even to this day, the descendant after 13, 14 generation, still comes to our functions sometimes and lectures. Although he's Mohammedan, but he's favorable. He's still the last living descendant of the Chand Kazi is there, and he's still devoted to Lord Chaitanya. Although overtly he's by religion, because one doesn't have to change their religion to be devoted to Lord Chaitanya. One can even remain in the same religion, or one can take Vedic culture as religion. This thing is difficult for people to understand it. You can practice Krishna consciousness and still remain, if you want to keep some attachments for some other regional type of religion, you can do that. That's not, there's no bar for that. But that last descendant of Chand Kazi, he's still favorable. But there's so many other Mohammedans there. Since the British rule, there's no more Chand Kazi reign. The Mughal rule stopped 200 years ago. So after that, the descendants of the Chand Kazi no longer remained in power. The whole thing was reorganized with British magistrates, and the feudal system in Bengal changed quite a deal. In some places they kept the feudal system, in some places they didn't, because the capital was in Calcutta for some time. In Bengal, the feudal system was by and large changed. It was only kept in one or two places in Bengal, and that was also just mainly for show. Basically, the British were running everything. So that's why, although his personal descendants are favorable, but the general Mohammedans, they didn't make any such pledge. And we have a good relationship with the Mohammedans now. That was just, they were like excited, they were incited to do these things. And after the whole thing was over, they came and they also apologized and said, actually, we made a mistake. You've always been helping us and you were giving us jobs and things like that, but somehow we got bewildered by lust and greed. So now we have good relations with the villagers again. We always did, but I mean, they were somehow exploited. The simple people got a little bit greedy. And basically now we have a good relationship in the village, there's no problem. But in Bengal, you have to always keep your eye open for village politics. It's always a potential inflammatory situation. But at the present time, we started even feeding the people in that village of Mayapur, giving them bulgur wheat feeding. I think this was going on even under when Narishar was there. That feeding in Mayapur. So the relationship now is much better. In fact, I asked one Mahavanan that you take a prasadam. He said yes. So the fact that your Mahavanan is no bar for taking, I mean, for us we are very happy, but you don't feel anything. It's quite all right for you to take prasadam. He said, food is food. And your food is very good. But actually some of them are actually hidden devotees of Lord Chaitanya. It's just that due to social pressure, they're not able to show it all the time. One time, the big Mahavanan preachers, they were noting this, and so they were coming and they had a big blackboard like this, and they wanted to make sure that their Mayapur Muslims are not, going too far over. So then he said that you have to be faithful to Allah. So then in Allah, they write in Arabic backwards. It's the whole thing with dots and everything. So he said that he put on the blackboard the name. He put, first he put stars. He put all kind of dots. He said, this is the sky, right? All the stars in the sky, the firmament, the heavens. Then he drew the lines between the dots, and somehow it came out in Arabic, Allah. They said, Allah Akbar! And everyone cheered, He said, see, Allah is everything. Then he took a picture of Lord Chaitanya in a stick figure. He said, this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then he turned the figure sideways, erased one arm, raised a leg, put a line here, put a dot there, Then he came out, Allah also said, Allah Akbar! Even Chaitanya is like. So even when they preach to the Mahamanans there, they have to include Chaitanya a little bit. High philosophy,
Can you continue that description when you were looking for Krishna Das Kaviraj's birthplace and you got so far? Could you continue just for the benefit of explaining to us some of your explorations?
Well, we got up to the Ajoy River. There was no bridge and there was no ferry boat. There was just a wooden boat. And beyond that, they said be another about 18 miles to go. So, it was a bit too much to walk. And so we made a deal with a boat to put our jeep on top of the boat, which is a kind of real precarious thing. And we had to on the side of it, kind of hold the jeep up hold the boat from tilting so the jeep wouldn't fall off. And somehow we got it over to the other side. They never knew about that in Mayapur, otherwise they wouldn't let me have the jeep again. But we got over to the other side, and then we were driving, and we got to this one village. And there they said, this is the birthplace of Udaar, the Samadhi of Udaar Datta Thakur. So we never knew where his Samadhi was. It's not written in Chaitanya Charitamrita or anywhere. We know his birthplace because Prabhupada is a descendant from the family of Udaar Datta Thakur, Suvarna Bonik family. But we never knew where his Samadhi was. His Samadhi is in this little village about 2 miles before reaching the birthplace of Krishnadas Kaviraj. So then we started walking in the village just to see where the Ganges was, just to get our bearings, because we heard the Ganges was nearby. So as we were walking through the little marketplace, I suddenly started hearing people say, ISKCON, ISKCON, ISKCON. I said, that was pretty far away from, ISKCON is that's like a kind of, especially 10 years ago, that's like the esoteric name, and only someone that really had direct contact would ever say ISKCON. Even Hare Krishna was more commonly known, but ISKCON, that was. So then all of a sudden there's like 10 people all surrounded, and they said that 4 years ago, your boat party came here, and they pulled out some old guitar gans and different books, and they said they came here and distributed books to us, and they promised us that they would build a temple here, and we remembered, you are from ISKCON. So we still have the land here waiting for you. When will you come and build a temple? So he said how the boat had gone in there's no road even. You had to just go through the fields practically there. And the boat had reached there, and they always remember there was the talk of that when ISKCON will come back and build the temple here for us so we can chant Hare Krishna. So then that was very satisfying. How now we're fixing up the boat in New Orleans. They just donated one sonar depth finder, so that when the boat's fully outfitted, we'll have a sonar in it, so we can know how the depth of the river. Because suddenly a sand dune comes, you get stuck. I remember one time I went and I found all the devotees on the boat stuck on a sand dune, trying to push it off. It took about 6 hours to get it off. So now we have a depth finder. Anyway, we went on, and then finally we got to the birthplace of Krishnadas Kaviraj. There was a lotus footprint of Lord Nityananda, a little temple with the lotus feet of Nityananda, and there was a temple there to Radha Madan Mohan, I believe, deities, and the temple was all cracked with big cracks in the wall. So then we talked to the devotees there, the family that was overseeing the temple, and then we made some program and we fixed the wall. Later we sent people to go back and they repaired the temple and put a plaque there describing that place. There's a lot more work that can be done, and in the future many of these places could also be helped if they were managed by ISKCON, or that's up to the local people, but the family wanted to continue doing everything there, so we repaired the things and preserved it for other people to go and visit, and in the future more could be done. Right now there's a hall for kirtan that's been built, and then there's the repair on the temple so it doesn't break or fall down. Then from there we started heading back. They also showed us another place on the way back, the temple of Ganga Mai Goswamini. You know her. You don't know Ganga Mai Goswamini? She's the daughter of Lord Nityananda. She married Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So they had a little temple there where they had lived very nearby there on the side of the Ganges, and there was a temple there, and the temple had broken down. All there was left was a mound of earth where the temple was, and the people in the village had taken the bricks. So I assigned a caretaker. Sure. So in that we found 3 places. One we were searching for, and 2 other: the ashram of Ganga Mai Goswamini and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Both were branches of Lord Chaitanya Nityananda's tree. Now Ganga Devi, she was actually the Ganges took birth as the daughter of Lord Nityananda, personified. So she also had her ashram right next to the Ganges, which is befitting. And then the Samadhi of Udaar Datta Thakur. So that day was a big find. Hare Krishna.